In this video, we're gonna take a look at this gun right here, which you might not have heard of, but once we take a close-up look, you may recognize that it has a lot of similarities to a very popular gun that I'm sure you have heard of and seen. This is the Derya DY9. It's a 9mm compact pistol. Derya is a Turkish brand gun manufacturer. Models of these have been around for a little while. They were imported by Rock Island Armory, but now since Derya has a manufacturing plant here in the US, you can get these all US made. The MSRP of these on Derya's website are $399. They do come in this flat dark earth version that I have here and in all black. You do have an option to get the gun that has the 10-round magazine, or if you still live in a free state like I do, you can get the standard 15-round magazine gun. Before we take a close-up look of the gun, let's see what you can expect to get in the package. It does come in this nice plastic case here, and once you open it up, you can see it does have some nice foam inserts where everything sits in and is protected. It does come with a user manual. You do get the firearm itself and one magazine. That is one thing about this price point, is they do only come with one magazine, but they do have options for additional magazines on their website. They have the 10-round, 15-round, they also have the 17-round and the Fun Stick 33 rounds. You'll see it does come with 2 optic plates, and the Allen key down here for that is down here. It does come with some cleaning tools, so you get a brush and then a cleaning rod. You also get a total of 4 different back straps. You have a small, medium, large, and extra large, so if you want to change those out, you have that option as well. But coming in at the $399 price point, I do think you get a lot for the money here. But let's go ahead and take the gun out and take a close-up look of it, and you'll be able to probably right off the bat see what gun it is modeled after. So here's a close-up look of the gun itself. It does have a metal slide and a polymer frame. Chambered in 9mm, it does weigh 1.81 pounds. The barrel length inside here is 3.8 inches. The overall length of the gun is 6.9 inches. The width of the gun is 1.16 inches, and the overall height of the gun is 4.56 inches. Starting on the slide here, it is made of 4140 steel, and it does have front and rear slide serrations. Now these aren't the most pronounced slide serrations, so if you do have wet hands, that might be a little bit harder to grip, or if you're using this for competition shooting, you may need to come up with something a little bit different, because they are not as aggressive as I would like them to be, but it is nice that they did add front and rear slide serrations. If you look at the overall width of the slide, it is kind of thick and boxy like a Glock style pistol. It does have cuts here on the edges, so it kind of rounds out the edges a little bit so they're not as sharp. But the overall look of the slide as you're looking it over really reminds you of a Glock style pistol. On the top of the slide, you do have this cutout here for your optics, but when you're not running a plate on here, you just have this cover here, and you do have the 2 Allen key screws right here to where you can swap this out with one of the 2 plates depending on the manufacturer of the sight. And the plates are compatible with quite a few various optics right here. I will put it on the screen. So that's one thing that you're seeing a lot of these new gun companies come out with, especially in these compact models, are optic sight cutouts. And moving on to the sights, you have True Glow front and rear sights. You have green on the back and then a reddish orange on the front. And these are really nice over some of the other standard ones that you get that are either white dot, or with the Glock, you have that U-notch in the back. These are really pronounced and easy to pick up. I really like having the contrasting colors so you can really see the front sight through those 2 rear sights. The rear sight is adjustable, or you can also remove these with any other options of your choosing. Moving on to the frame, it is a polymer frame, and at the very front you do have a nice rail system, so you can mount a light or any accessories right there. And then moving over here on both sides, you do have a place for your index finger that is indented and easy to grab, because it does have some sand texturing right here, so it is a nice grip whether you're left or right-handed. You have that option on both sides. And very similar to the Glock style pistols, you have your takedown levers on both sides here. They do stick out just enough so you're able to grab those, and then you have your slide lock right here in the back. And on your magazine release right here, it does have a little bit of texturing on the front side, and it is ambidextrous, so you could swap it out to either side. And it sticks out just enough to where you're able to easily press that magazine release button to release the magazine, and not so far out that you're gonna get it caught or accidentally hit that. And then you do have a flared mag well down here for easy unloading and unloading of that magazine. So we'll go ahead and take the magazine right here, and you'll see it easily loads in, and then you hit that magazine release button and it drops right out. So no issues there. Magazine fits in there real nice. Moving on to the grips. The grips kind of remind me of the original XDM grips here. You can see some of the texturing on the front here of the original XDMs, which they don't make these anymore, but it kind of reminds me a lot of these, but Springfields are a little bit more aggressive, to whereas the ones here on the Derya aren't too aggressive. You can see it does have some on the front here. You got a little bit on the side with some sand texturing, and then you have them here on the back again as well. And you also have some light texturing on the front of the trigger guard. Now I do like the look of the texturing on this pistol, but I do wish it was a little bit more aggressive. I wish they did a little bit more with the sandpaper grip, similar to like your Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0s. Really love the way those feel. You can get a nice firm grip on them even with wet hands. This, I feel like even with dry hands, it is a little slippery. And I feel like once your hands get a little bit sweaty or even wet, you are gonna struggle with getting a good grip on this. I do wish these were a little bit more pronounced, similar to the Springfield XDM there, but still like the aesthetics of it. You may need to add some Teflon tape there or something just to get a little bit better grip if you are gonna be using this for any type of competition shooting. That being said, it does feel comfortable in your hand with not being overly aggressive. So it's just gonna depend on what you prefer, but having the texturing up here for your index finger does help assist in having a good grip on the gun here. Changing out the back straps is pretty simple. You just take out these two pins here, pull this one out, and then whichever one you want to use, you just slide it in right here, put the pins back in, and you're good to go. So that gives you a little bit more options depending on your hand size and how much palm swell you need. So taking a look at the trigger, it does look like a standard Glock trigger. However, the safety lever right here is red versus black on your Glocks. And that does act as the only safety on the gun. As you can see, there's no other external thumb safeties or anything. So just like your Glock pistols, you have to fully press this lever in with your index finger in order to fire the gun. If you don't get your finger on there fully, you can see you cannot fire the gun here. So once you get your index finger on there and that pressed all the way in, you can then fire the gun there. So again, the trigger pull is 5.95 pounds. So your take up is right here. And then you hit that wall. And there you go. And then we'll listen for that reset. Right there, very pronounced reset. And then there you go. So pretty comparable to a standard Glock trigger, definitely better than the triggers on like a Palmetto State Armory dagger. This is a lot smoother and a lot closer to your standard Glock trigger. So if you're familiar with the Glock triggers, it's pretty much what you're getting. To field strip this gun is gonna be the exact same process as a Glock pistol. You can see we do have the gun unloaded. So we're gonna pull the trigger. You do have to pull the trigger on this just like a Glock. And then you're going to pull the slide back about 1/4 of an inch. And then as you have that pulled back, you're gonna pull down on both of those takedown levers, and then you're gonna pull the slide forward, and the slide's gonna come off the frame here. And looking at the internals right here, it does look very similar to a Glock pistol. So everything on the lower looks just like a Glock. And then we're gonna go ahead and take down the slide a little bit more. So you just push in your recoil spring, that pops out, and then you're able to pull your barrel out right there. So looking at the internals of the slide, it does look very similar to a Glock style pistol. And the recoil spring does look very similar to a dual recoil spring in the Glock models. So a lot of similarities inside the gun as in a Glock style pistol. Putting the gun back together, we're just gonna reverse that process. So we're gonna take the slide, drop in the barrel. We're gonna take the recoil spring, insert that in there, and we're gonna put it on that groove there. Push it in, and it goes on that groove just like that. And then we're going to take our slide, our frame, and we're going to slide them back on and pull it back, and you're good to go. So let's take a look at the magazine really quick. So this is the 15-round magazine that comes standard with the gun. And just by looking at it, I'm sure you can tell what magazine this looks very similar to. This one right here that I'm bringing in is a Glock 19 magazine. So unless this had the Glock logo on it, you probably couldn't tell the difference. I mean, the Derya doesn't have this little notch right here as the Glock 19 one does. And the base plates are a little bit different just because it does have to go into that mag well. So these do fit in that mag flare a little bit better than the flat ones here with the Glock. But other than the base plate and the Glock logo, it would be hard to tell these two apart. Now with that being said, the Derya magazine, it does fit in there nice and good with that base plate, but you can use the Glock 15-round magazine. It does fit in there. It just takes a little bit more force to go up in there since it doesn't sit flush with that mag flare, but it does take it, it locks into place and drops out just as nice. You can also use the Glock 17 round magazines and the fun stick size, which I have here. So this is Glock's fun stick magazine that you're able to lock in there, and you can see locks in there nice and tight and then drops out. So Derya does sell their own 33 round magazine. So if that's your thing to run the fun stick through these, you can either use the Glock ones or the ones from Derya. And that pretty much wraps it up for the tabletop review of the Derya DY9. Again, it is a pretty close Glock clone, but it does have some different features. I really do like the fact that it comes with the True Glow front and rear sights and the optics cut, even though the Glocks are now coming with those. It is nice for that option. And just the fact that if you're familiar with Glock and you want a Glock, but you don't want to spend the money on a Glock, you can get something very similar with a little bit different features. And I do like the flat dark earth version of this, and with that mag flare right there, the magazines go in there nice and smooth, so I really like that. There's no issues with it getting stuck and you have to, you know, do a little bit work to get it out. That is nice and smooth. If you guys are interested on checking this gun out or looking at some of the specs or even some of the other models offered by Derya USA, you can just go to their website, derya.us, and see what they're coming out with. I really do like the fit and finish of this gun. You don't really see any tooling marks or anything like that. Sometimes when companies try to clone Glocks, especially at a lower price point, you kind of see some areas where maybe they cut corners. Looking over this DY9, I don't see any of that here. It does look like a great put together gun. I have not shot this yet. I will be taking it out to shoot it. So if you aren't subscribed, hit that subscribe button so you can be notified when I do come out with a video going over the shooting of this gun. But just looking over it and feeling the gun, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of issues. If it's got that Glock design and a lot of the internals are modeled after that Glock 19, shouldn't be any issues. But until then, if you want to see some other guns that are similar to the Glock 19, check out these videos right here.